and I'm going to hand it over to you. So thank you so much for being here tonight. You're on mute, Lori.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, everybody. I am Lori Durgan. I am a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. My sobriety date is February 18th, 1985. Have been working part time for Karen for 12 years, full time for 2. I left a ministry at a church in order to have the job right now that I feel like is my dream job, and I love more than I could say. My title that I'm most proud of is I'm a sober mom and a sober grandmother. I'm here tonight because I'm an alumni parent. My son, Ben, went through the program up in Pennsylvania in 2022. And grateful to say that he is just a, a few months sober right now. He had some rocky going when he came home, but we knew what to do and how to help him. So really grateful for everyone who life just seems to send us angels when we need them. And I'm just going to throw that out there because during these really difficult times, it just seems like there's always someone there to help. So I'm so grateful for that. So yes, ambiguous grief. I'm not going to lie to you. I had to look it up. I had to look the definition up, Christine. And then I had to buy the book called Ambiguous Loss, Learning to Live with Unresolved Grief. And it's actually a really great book. But I now I understand what it is. And I know that we all experience it. And that, when we grow up in families, I'm an alcoholic. My mother is an alcoholic. My grandmother was a drug addict. My son is a recovering alcoholic. And who knows what else is back there? We don't really know. I have my suspicions, but I come from a long line of, and my grandmother has some mental illness issues, mental health issues. And so I'm really grateful, though, that I know that sounds funny, but today whatever I've been through, the loss, the ambiguous loss, the losses that I've had, and the challenges that I've had in my life, I understand today, stepping back and grateful to have gotten through them sober, that everything in my life depends on how I look back on it or how I perceive it, and I'm trying really hard in my life today to see everything as a lesson, as a blessing, as a gift in some way, shape, or form. After Christine asked me and I got the book and I started reading, I went into work last Friday and saw a couple of patients that were in our older adult program. And we were talking about grief. And, they came because that's what they wanted to talk about. And it was definitely, both of them had, unresolved grief issues in in many forms. And I think probably one of the forms that comes up a lot in work and has come up in my own life um, you know, is adoption and not knowing, um, you know, where my child is, not knowing who my mother is. I know she's out there, but I don't know where. Or recently, and in the grief and loss group that I lead at Renaissance, is I lost this person, but where are they? Am I going to see them again? I need to know that I'm going to see my son again. And these are the kind of things that have come up in my work, along with a lot of other things. So I'm grateful when people have these moments when they feel safe to share, because it definitely teaches me as well, and it just makes us even more and more connected. So I grew up in an alcoholic home. My mom was the alcoholic in my home, and I just remember. I'm going to say that. It's funny the things that we remember, isn't it? I'm 65 years old, but I remember wishing that I could just do the dishes with my mom and that we would eat it at a normal time. And, I had to grieve the loss of the mom that, I just didn't get. I didn't get a mom like that. Um, I I often would go over to my friends' houses and ask. I don't know why I wanted to wash the dishes. I guess that just seemed normal to me, and I wanted a normal house. My house was not normal. I was the oldest of three girls, so I helped my mom out a lot when she was drunk. I got her in bed before my dad got home. Then I helped my dad with my two sisters. I have a sister with special needs. Her name is Kristen, and she has Williams syndrome. And she's a big part of my life story. She actually lives with me now. And my sister Karen and I, who lives in West Virginia, co-parent her. Both of our parents are gone now. My mom got sober when I was 14, and my father left a short time after my mom came home from treatment. Once he could see that she was okay and on her feet, my dad left. And that was another loss. I just thought, why did he leave? Mom's all better now. Everything is good. Um, Today, because of experiences in my own life, thank God, I have been able to, forgive that I held on to for a long time, and understand that my father was unhappy for a long time, and he wanted to be happy, and he had to step out in courage and do that. And so I'm grateful today that I can see that. I'm grateful that I've had, experiences in my own personal life that taught me that. So yeah, I lost the normal family. I lost the what I perceived as like the white picket fence, and um, what I received was not what I wanted. And so, I started getting very resentful as a teen. I was the tough one in the family. I started, my drinking when I was in high school. And, I really just drank from the time I was 18 to 25. But it was fast and hard. I'm sure that my mother at times wished that, and prayed that, I would, get sober, that I would change, that I would stop being who I had become. So, I'm sure my mom had those feelings about me as I had them about her. And so I took off we lived in Naples. I took off for the this coast. Um, and it was like maybe in the 1980s. Um, and I went to Palm Beach Junior College then, and this is a big piece for me. Like in one fell swoop, I decided that I didn't want to teach special ed anymore. That was all I wanted to do. I wanted to teach special education so that I could help my sister. She really went through a hard time when she was little, because it was just, there weren't schools for anyone like her. So she got bullied, and many times I got called to go pick her up. So I went. So I had a sincere desire to teach special education, and in a very, very quick time, I went from going to school for that to wanting to be the best bartender in Palm Beach County, and that was my disease. And so I lost my college education. My father just said, you're wasting my money, and I'm not going to let you do this to me. So for a long time after I got sober, I grieved that loss. I grieved the loss of that time, and losing the ability to have an education. But today, I understand that I didn't need college education. I needed to go to seminary to become a minister. I did not know that at the time, though, but God did. Um, I'm a big believer, and God does for me what I don't know how to do for myself. I got sober in 1985 over here finally, and went to treatment for 30-day program back then. Went to a women's halfway house for several months, and started living sober, and had a really great community. But it was then that I really, although my mom was sober, she started getting really difficult to live with and deal with, and she just didn't, support me. And if I didn't do what she wanted, she would withhold her love from me. One time, I mean, she went almost 2 years without contacting me, because she was so mad about something that had to do with money. when my dad passed away. It was really so sad. So I continued to kind of grieve this loss of the mom that I needed and I didn't have. But in the meantime, what I learned about that was that my therapist said, if you're having a difficult time with this situation in your life, it's on you. You know how your mother is. Stop going to her for things that you know that she can't give you. And she said, that's on you. And I really heard that. I really, really heard that. I thought, that's right. And I'm going to stop doing that. So I started surrounding myself with really nurturing women and stopped complaining about what I didn't have and started blessing what I did have. And this kind of is the story throughout my life is you know, just exactly that. Stop looking at the problem and look at God, look at the solution, look at love, look at what you have, look at how you're blessed. I got married when I was 5 years sober and very quickly had two children. Um, uh, they grew up to be, both of them, really beautiful boys. My son John is clearly, to my knowledge, the way I'm watching him, not he doesn't even really drink. But my Ben, I could see it from the time he was, elementary school. I remember a time when I was so embarrassed about his behavior, and I started finding myself, just, dear God, please stop him from being this way. Like I was so grieving the son that I wanted to have that I didn't have. And I just thought, what is happening to him? I watched him, intentionally hurt a kid on the baseball field. And, he contended that that wasn't the case, but, later on he admitted that to his dad and I. His anger and his edginess, that edginess started when he was really young and really continued until he got sober, and he's still learning how to manage that. But it got really difficult with him. The same old thing, having to come home from college because he thought he was sick. He was having heart palpitations and anxiety. Well, because he was having such bad withdrawal, he was taking Adderall, he was drinking. His dad and I constantly got phone calls about, I don't have any money. Someone stole my wallet. I mean, interestingly enough, all these stories that I used to tell. So I knew what was going on. And I was sad about that. I was really, and it wasn't like it shouldn't have been a shock, right? I mean, it's a family disease. I remember saying to my mother, you gave this to me. And I remember her saying to me, I was actually, let me be honest about that. I was screaming that at her because she came to treatment to do some family work. And I was still so angry about having to accept the fact that I'd become like her, and that I vowed never to get alcoholism like her. And so I just, I was screaming at her, you gave this to me. And she didn't say a word. She was so quiet. And the therapist said, Susan, do you have anything to say? And she just said, do you think I wanted it? Do you think I wanted to receive this disease? And I didn't know what to say to that, except no. And that was a good answer, wasn't it? But that helped wake me up a little bit. So I was a sober parent. My children continue to be one day at a time so far this day. My kids have never seen me drunk. I enjoyed, being a mom. I ran the concession stand at the baseball field. I was able to do all the things that I always wanted my mom to do. So that was one of the things, that is the thing that I'm just most grateful for, is being a sober mother. Let's see, in 2003, my one son was Ben was in 8th grade. I think Johnny was in 5th grade. I had a really nasty bout with breast cancer. And I was pretty sick for a couple of years. I had a mastectomy, chemo, radiation, and I'm really grateful to say I'm doing well, so well, perfectly well. And I remember, always saying when I got sober, I can do this as long as nothing, big happens. There's nothing. If I find out I'm sick or dying, I'm going out. Well, that was really the last thing that I thought of, which was really miraculous. What I thought of was I just want to go home and, see my kids, hug my husband, and have a cup of coffee, call my sponsor, call some friends. And that's what I did. And on my way home, there was this guy. So there's a guy here that occasionally flies in his airplane, and he writes in the sky. And I'm not lying to you, because I took a picture of it and wrote an article for a newsletter about it. Above my house, he was writing, "God loves you." And I knew I was going to be okay. And, my whole life has been filled with messages like this, or people that showed up at the right time to say what I needed to hear, and to help me through these, really difficult times. I wasn't going to talk about this tonight, but I grieved the loss of, my right breast. I grieved that feeling of being, not being whole anymore. And I had to work my way through that. And I did it quietly. I didn't do it. I didn't, join a group of women that were breast cancer survivors or anything. I worked with my sponsor, my therapist, my girlfriends, and, kind of just walked my way through it, prayed my way through it, forgave my way through it. I worked my steps. I can honestly say to you that loss always brings this kind of loss, this ambiguous loss. These things that we go through bring us gifts. I have on several occasions been called at work, and when I was at my church, and also at Renaissance and Ocean Drive, been called to talk to women who had gone through that experience. So, having lost that, or experienced that loss, seeming loss, I've been able to help other people, which has been really, really beautiful. So doing good and really healthy and strong. So, and went through that entire event gratefully sober with God. Somebody told me just sit there and just receive that liquid God, and chemo became liquid God, and my radiation was the light of God. And I suddenly didn't feel that I had lost anything anymore, but that I had gained something. So I guess the next time I had a loss was when my kids left to go to college. That was hard. A lot of us have probably gone through that. I suddenly didn't have anyone to take care of anymore. And shortly after that, I had to leave my marriage. My husband started just drinking. When the kids left, he just went through a big change, and he wasn't interested in getting help. He didn't want to talk about it. He was getting, it was very difficult to live in that situation. I was finding myself going in the bathroom and screaming in a pillow. And I just thought, why am I doing this? I kind of reverted back to a lot of, things I went through when I was little, screaming in a pillow when I was mad at my mom or whatever. And so I had to leave that relationship. And that was another loss, because I always wanted that white picket fence. And I hope you understand what I mean by that. I just wanted to provide a normal environment for my children. I worked hard to be sober, and I felt very badly that I had to walk away from my marriage, but I had to do it for my own sobriety. And the children were fine with it. They just wanted to make sure that I was feeling healthy, and that I was, okay. So I remember, just like sitting in an apartment all by myself, sitting in the middle of the floor crying. And a friend called me and said, "Why are you crying?" And she said, "Are you crying because you want to go back? Are you crying because you're so uncomfortable being alone?" And it was the second. I didn't have anybody to take care of. I was feeling a deep loss of someone to take care of, and that's just a part of life. So I started, remembering that my kids are not gone. They're growing, they're thriving, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I need to do what I'm supposed to be doing. And so, just more meetings. I have learned that, whenever I'm in a bad way, it means need to get reconnected with my spirituality. I know that I get a daily reprieve from my insanity, and, based on my spiritual condition. and I have to make sure that my spiritual condition is right. So I, threw myself into church, threw myself into classes, went to seminary. I got a calling to, become a minister. So for 2 years, I did a seminary program, long distance. Actually, it was in New York City. So that helped me, kind of heal. And I think that's another thing, when you're having these losses and um, you don't know what to do because you don't know how to resolve the situation. I had to take care of myself. I had to, um, the problem was me. I had to, get to more meetings, get to my therapist on a more regular basis. This was a very difficult time because I remember pulling my car over, and I can tell you exactly where I was. I was on the corner of 7th and 4th in Delray Beach. And I remember thinking, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to be unhappy. This is, when I was leaving my husband, I don't want to be unhappy, but I was just so afraid of being alone. And I remember pulling I was pulling myself over in my car and just sitting there. And I heard that voice say, I just don't want to live like this anymore. And I remember thinking, is it that you want to die, or is it that you're just so uncomfortable living like this? And it was that. And so I knew that I needed to, do some work. And I have. And it's one day at a time. I guess the next, ambiguous loss that I've had was when my mom got dementia, which was probably about 7 years ago. And I was giving her a shower one day, and all of a sudden she said, why do I only have one breast? And she'd forgotten that she had breast cancer. And I gently reminded her that. And that was just like so loud to me, said that she was having trouble. And my mom got dementia pretty bad, like really quick. She just went just really fast. And she always remembered us kids and who we were when we came over, but her short-term memory was just shot. And the funny thing about this that I'm going to tell you, and it's an honest program, so I'm going to be totally honest with you. My mom went into her dementia, and she once she got in a facility that could really help her and take care of her, because I couldn't do it. She was really sweet, and she was nice, and she was kind, and she was thoughtful, and it was really good because it it was a gift from God, because as a primary caretaker of my mom, it helped me to, remember that my mom could be really sweet and really nice, and that I could forgive the parts of her and the times that she wasn't. I didn't want my mom to leave this planet with me being angry with her. So we had some really special times in the nursing home before she passed away. She passed away this it'll be a year, this November 20th. But that was a really difficult time too. Just kind of going through that. Where is my mom going? And then, just all of a sudden, again, when my mom passed, it was like, oh my gosh, I've never lived without a parent. What do I do? What do I do? So it's funny. It's like we go through. I started thinking about this because at first, when Christine asked me, I went, "Oh, I don't know that I've had any of that." Well, oh my goodness. And I started thinking, how I'm sure that we have all had these losses. Um, Along with a lot of these losses comes, like, I remember, guess I should share this before I wrap it up. How many times I felt guilty for wishing and quietly praying about my son's anger, and, wishing him to be different, or even like more like his brother. I remember my mom saying that once to me. She said it out loud, why can't you just be more like your sister? And I remember saying, because I don't want to be like my sister. I want to be like me. And I heard myself thinking those things about my son, but, I'm learning today to be really self-compassionate and compassionate with myself. It was a rough time watching my son go through what I knew was painful, and I knew I could not help him until he wanted help. And, it was, laying in bed and listening to the sirens and thinking, oh, dear God, please make that not be him, because his thing was not going to nightclubs. He sat in his car and drank. He drank and drove all the time. As much as I told him, don't do it, he wasn't going to listen to me. So I remember feeling guilty about that. And I think it's important to say that because we have a lot of mixed feelings when we go through these times with our own child. So, I'm really grateful that I've had also the experiences at work, because over the years I've sat and really held um, you know a secret desire to find out who my birth mother is, or a secret desire to see if I can find my son after all these years that my parents took away when I was a 17-year-old pregnant teenager, or you know, having the conversation with, gosh, we lost a young man at my church that I taught Sunday school to for all his life, and Miles died of an overdose. And I remember when we put his ashes in the ground, and his mom saying, I just hope I see him again. I hope I see him. Lori, am I going to see him? And I said, of course you're going to see him. We're all going to see him. And, it's like just reassuring people when they ask that question. I feel like that's my work, is to say, of course, yes, yes, yes. And he's going to see you. Well, how will he know me? How will he know me? Because we become spirit, and we'll recognize everyone. It's not like humans. We won't be humans. We'll be light, and there'll be no darkness. So um, I I guess I've had some ambiguous loss. Um, and the textbook definition of this loss is unresolved or unanswered grief, and it's not it's not grief that's a loss of a person, but rather a loss of a situation. Many of the patients, and including myself, grieving the time that we lose when we're drinking, or when we're healing. Or I grieved a little bit the time that I lost with Ben when he was out there at important times in his life. And I grieved, my own wasted time, but it had to be. It had to be. And I think acceptance is the key to all my problems today. I need to understand that my work is to accept that this is my life, and not even just accept it and say thank you for it. That's how I heal. I heal through my prayers, through my relationship with the higher power, through accepting love from other people, through asking for help. I heal by being grateful and focusing on so much I have instead of what I don't have. I'm grateful that I have a wider view today, so I can understand, why my father left, how difficult it must be to live with an alcoholic. I know that. I know how hard that is. So when I left my own alcoholic relationship, I understood deeply what my dad must have been going through. And so again, how many years later, my dad passed away almost 30 years ago now, like that, forgiveness keeps coming. So I'm grateful to be here with you all. I'm honored to be here with you all. I'm just honored that Christine asked me to speak. And I'm grateful to feel a part, to be an alumni. Really grateful to say I'm an alumni parent, and really honored to say that I work for Karen. So God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. I was muted. Of course I was.